Before you decide whether a piece of text feels serious, official, or trustworthy, your mind has already made a judgment. That judgment often comes from the shape of the letters themselves. You've trusted texts written in certain fonts without ever asking why. Street signs, official documents, academic books. The typefaces themselves are doing part of the work, and they've been shaping our perception for centuries. Human thought is often understood as an internal process, private, self-directed, and largely independent of its surroundings. Yet research across psychology, design history, and environmental theory suggests the opposite. Cognition is deeply shaped by context. The environments we inhabit, be they physical, visual, or symbolic, structure not only what we perceive, but how we interpret, judge, and reflect. Typography occupies a peculiar position within this environment. It is omnipresent and culturally loaded, yet largely unnoticed. Unlike architecture or sound, typefaces tend to disappear into the background of daily life. This invisibility is precisely what gives them influence. Typefaces function as a form of environmental conditioning. Through repetition, historical association, and emotional tone, they quietly shape perception, authority, trust, and the inner experience of thought itself. Design theorists have long argued that environments do not merely house behavior, they actively participate in shaping it. Typography can be understood as a form of visual infrastructure, a system that organizes information, guides attention, and communicates authority. Every typeface embodies decisions about proportion, rhythm, contrast, and form. These decisions are not neutral. They encode values such as efficiency, tradition, rationality, or humanity. When a typeface becomes widespread, those values are repeatedly reinforced at the level of perception. Because typography is read rather than looked at, its influence often bypasses conscious scrutiny. The reader absorbs tone before meaning, posture before content. Edward Johnston's typeface for the London Underground, developed between 1913 and 1916, provides a clear example of typography shaping public experience. At the time, London's transport system was expanding rapidly and lacked visual coherence. Johnston, a calligrapher and teacher at the Central School of Arts and Crafts, was commissioned to create a unified lettering system that would be legible, modern, and civic in character. His solution was neither ornate nor aggressively modern. Instead, he produced a humanist sans serif rooted in classical proportions but simplified for clarity and reproducibility. When introduced across station signage, maps, and posters beginning in 1916, the typeface transformed how passengers navigated the city. Johnston communicated order without severity, authority without intimidation, and modernity without alienation. For millions of commuters, the typeface became the voice of the city itself. It shaped how public space felt: calm, legible, and coherent. In doing so, it normalized the idea that large public systems could be rational and humane at the same time. Typography here did not merely label an environment, it helped constitute it psychologically. If Johnston exemplifies civic modernity, John Baskerville's 18th-century serif typeface illustrates how typography shapes intellectual trust. Baskerville developed his typeface between approximately 1754 and 1757 during the height of the Enlightenment. His designs emphasized high contrast, precision and clarity, reflecting contemporary values of reason and refinement. Initially, Baskerville's work was controversial. Some critics claimed the sharp contrast strained the eyes. Yet over time, his type came to signify seriousness, credibility, and scholarly legitimacy. His editions of works, such as the Book of Common Prayer, printed in the late 1750s and early 1760s, became emblematic of intellectual authority. Today, serif typefaces derived from this tradition remain associated with academic rigor, institutional authority, and historical continuity. Baskerville gained trust by consistently accompanying texts deemed important. The visual form inherited the authority of the ideas it carried. The 20th century introduced a radically different typographic philosophy: Modernist neutrality. Typefaces such as Helvetica, released in 1957 by Max Miedinger in Switzerland, were designed to remove personality and reduce interference between message and reader. However, many design scholars assert that neutrality can be a political aesthetic. When a typeface presents information in a voice that feels inevitable, rational, and unchallengeable, it can suppress critical distance. Helvetica's widespread adoption by corporations and governments throughout the 1960s and 1970s did not occur because it lacked character, but because its character aligned with bureaucratic authority and technological progress. In this context, typography functions less as expression and more as legitimization. Typography also shapes the tempo of thought. Digital environments prioritize speed, fast scanning, instant recognition, and minimal friction. Typefaces optimized for screens encourage rapid consumption rather than sustained reflection. This shift has subtle cognitive effects. Attention becomes fragmented. Ambiguity becomes uncomfortable. Depth yields to efficiency. Conversely, typefaces that slow reading through texture, rhythm, or historical familiarity encourage contemplation. They invite the reader to dwell rather than skim. Typography, therefore, does not merely transmit information. It conditions the reader's mental posture toward that information. Environmental psychology suggests that repeated exposure to certain stimuli shapes emotional baselines. Typography, as part of the visual environment, participates in this process. Humanist typefaces that retain traces of the hand tend to feel warmer and relatable. Highly geometric or mechanical fonts often feel impersonal and system-oriented. These distinctions subtly influence how individuals experience institutions, interfaces, and even their own thoughts. Over time, the inner world adapts to the visual language that surrounds it. Calm environments foster calm cognition. Hyper-efficient environments foster alertness, anxiety, or detachment. Typography, though rarely noticed, contributes to this emotional ecology. Typefaces do not persuade through argument. They persuade through familiarity, tone, and quiet repetition. By shaping what feels credible, official, or normal, typography influences how ideas are received before they are consciously evaluated. Awareness does not eliminate this influence, but it introduces distance. When readers become attentive to the voice of a text, not just its content, they regain a degree of interpretive freedom. To notice typography is to recognize that thought itself has an environment, and environments, once seen, can be questioned.